Good morning and welcome back to Sunday Storytime here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're reading Foursquare by CZ Wright, as found in the Shadowrun 6 World Core Rulebook, City Edition, Berlin. I hope this one's good at talking to people, Source said, resting her boots on the small wobbly dining table. She focused her dark eyes on Nash. Because you're terrible at it. She's right, Tower said, swinging his feet from a seat on the kitchen counter. Sometimes you can't keep your head. Nash winced, removed a stray sock from her sink, and dropped it into a yellowed laundry bag. V vouched for her and said she was a good talker. At this point, I'll settle for anyone we can trust. Speaking of which, why are we meeting her in your apartment? Source said. 1. I trust V's judgment. And 2. This isn't my only apartment, dumbass. A knock on the front door sparked a flurry of activity. Nash chucked the bag into the nearest closet and stepped to the front door. She peered through the peephole. Tower hopped down and into a proper chair. He smoothed his neatly trimmed black hair and straightened his glasses and sat upright with perfect posture. Source chuckled to herself while lighting another cigarette. At least she's punctual, Nash said. She glanced at the others. We good? Tower nodded mechanically. Source waved her hand airily. Nash disengaged the locks and swung open the door. In the hall, a skinny troll woman in a hoodie and jeans, rocking pink hair and lips, hoisted a hand in greeting. I'm Rose. Nash, come in. I love this gig. Last month I acted the cold-blooded killer and intimidated my opposition into submission. Last week I played a spacey airhead and literally got away with murder. And now I'm all glamour and class and after something hidden in a palace. I tossed my hair over my shoulder. Hairstyle preset number 29 LBR. Perfect for playing the flirt. As I approached a featureless metal door and the liveried man standing beside it. The entrance was well hidden around the side of the lavish mansion where my employer had sent me for a simple snatch and grab from a fellow I'll call Mr. MacGuffin, whom I should find inside. The thing I love about working alone is the freedom you get to rock whatever looks, attitude, hell, whatever personality you feel like in any given moment. When no one knows who you are, it's easier to inhabit the moment, or in this case, the character. At my approach, the man beside the door straightened up. Ma'am, he said with a businesslike nod. He pointed to the front of the mansion and the well-lit drive teeming with expensive cars and wealthy people. You want the main entrance around the way. This door's for the help. I'm in the right place, thank you, I said, and presented my forged invitation in augmented reality. The young man reviewed it with a sigh. After a cursory glance over the invitation, the young man reached to open the door, but then he did a double take. My heart froze while he studied the invitation, a scowl creasing his face. His pale eyes swung up to meet mine, cold, with a weird mix of apathy and suspicion. This don't look like the others, he said. If you look again, you'll see it's perfectly legitimate, I said, keeping my face calm while my heart ricocheted around the inside of my ribcage. Bless him. He did look again, and for the moment his attention was on AR. I magicked a hint of influence. An extra, barely perceptible, magical nudge to back me up, and said, My invitation is acceptable. You can let me right in. A moment's fog. His scowl retreated and he pulled open the door, magically taking my words as truth, if not a direct order. Enjoy your evening, ma'am, he said. I will, I said truthfully, and I made my way inside as quickly as I could and still maintain my charade of dignity. So we pull the guy out of the van, Nash said, cracking open her second beer. We present him to Mr. Johnson, and what did that bastard say? The group sat around the apartment. Small talk had shifted to horror stories. He said, Where's his thumb? Source said with a shake of her ponytail. Rose's eyebrows lifted. Nowhere in our notes does it say he asked us for a thumb. He only asked for the guy, Tower said. You sure about that? Source said, narrowing her eyes at Tower. What? Tower's jaw dropped. Of course I'm sure. We talked about this. Source kept her expression stern. Come on, you guys. That's my thing, Tower said, his tone rising in pitch. Rose opened her mouth to speak, but Nash spoke first. Your note-taking is top-notch, man. Calm down, she said. Source's stern expression melted. And she laughed. Tower clicked his tongue and folded his arms over his chest. Rose opened her mouth again, but Source barked a laugh and said, "So, by this point, I hear Mr. Johnson say he's not going to pay us, and I'm about ready to start peeling him into pieces." "Yeah?" Nash said, and Rose snapped her mouth closed with a smile as the others began shouting over one another. "He says he won't pay because we didn't bring him what he never even asked for." "I'm trying to get all of you to calm down so we can talk about this," the Tower said. "And how did we not notice he didn't have a thumb?" "Fragging ridiculous," Nash said. "I'm looking for cover and an out." "Nash, dear," Source said, and tipped her head to grin at Nash. "What did your miraculous brain decide this would be a good time to say?" "Oh, shit," Nash ran a hand through her black curls. "What did I say? It wasn't good." Source slapped the table good-naturedly and pointed at Rose. "This one," she said, hitching her head towards Nash. Turns to the Johnson and says, "I don't know, maybe it's up your ass. With your head stuffed so far up there, you could probably go have a look." Nash pursed her lips, bowed her head, and nodded. "Oh, yeah." Tower shook his head and closed his eyes. "Ugh." Source broke into a grin. And that's when they started shooting. Once past the guard and inside the house, if such a massive and opulent thing could be called a house anymore, I found the locker room. The forger I had bought the invitation from had information for sale too. For a few new yen more, I was working with a map of the house and the locker combination of an employee I could resemble who wouldn't be here tonight. I wondered whether the map and combination were going to be as solid as the invitation, which is to say, shoddy as shit. But there wasn't much to be done about it now, with my being alone and on site already. In a few minutes, I wore a simple black uniform. I examined the badge clipped to the bottom of the shirt. It read, "Charlotte," and bore a photo of a mousy-looking young woman. I could do that, I thought, and hid in a bathroom stall to fill out the look. I shifted my long brown hair to dishwater blonde, short and messy preset number 82 SBL. While my artificial hair changed color, length, and texture, I shifted the tiny plates under the skin of my face into preset number 3 PE, which was close enough to Charlotte that I needed only a tweak or two to prove a serviceable match. After a couple more minutes, I wiped the sweat from my brow and popped a painkiller. Changing your face like that hurts like hell, both when you're doing it and for a while afterwards. But a look in the mirror told me I looked enough like Charlotte to work. The din from the plates, pans, and people in the kitchen served me well. No one looked askance as I grabbed a tray of drinks and exited out into the party. A chaos of music and light met me past the swinging doors and inside the great hall. Painted and festooned people danced with abandon on the ground floor before me, while swank folks with drinks mingled serenely on the several balconies. No, one huge balcony that spiraled up into the starlight-speckled dome ceiling high above our heads. While the music, the lighting, and the sights made it easier to blend in, they were going to make it that much more difficult to find Mr. MacGuffin. "I've got 2 other guns bricked before you two even get into the van," Tower said with a grin, all pretense of cool aloofness forgotten. "I did the best I could, considering someone couldn't keep her hands off of them." Nash stared at Source pointedly. Source shrugged. "What do you want? Is it a crime to do what you love for a living?" "Well, in this case, actually, yes," Tower said. "This from the guy who said I was wasting my money with that spirit combat training," Source said. "I said no such thing. Who knew just what to do to save your hoop when that cloud of diesel exhaust manifested inside our van and tried to pull your insides out? I only said your money might be better spent elsewhere. Your unconscious form, I might add, Mr. Matrix." "Have since learned I was mistaken," Tower said. "Thank you for saving my hoop yet again, oh wise one." Rose held her hands out and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you say earlier that Mr. Johnson wanted a thumb?" "Yeah," Nash shouted and threw her hands up, looser and louder since the beers kicked in. "The bastard didn't even ask for it." "Sure he asked for it, by not paying for it," Source said, and the 2 women roared with laughter. "Tell her about the ramp," Tower said, wrinkling his nose. Oh, my sweet ghost, the damn ramp, Nash said. She pinched the bridge of her nose. I just want to state, for the record, that I have put a dreck ton of money into that damned van after that stunt. For the sake of all that is holy, why are you like this, Source said. Cut to the chase for the girl, please. Nash narrowed her eyes. Fine, the chase, she said, and squared herself before Rose. Rotodrones punching holes through our roof, Mr. Johnson's thugs pulling up on our ass, and I'm driving like a maniac through a part of town where they care whether you drive like a maniac. She sat up straight and held up her palms. But it's okay, because I know my way around. Source began to laugh, and Nash talked a little louder. Sure, the streets are clogged with people. Sure, the one-ways are ludicrous, but I know where I'm going, so it's okay. So saith she who turned off Grid Guide because its voice annoyed her, Tower said. It was obnoxious, Nash said. You could have just turned off the voice, Tower said. And that's when Nash decided to take a shortcut, Source shouted over them. Tower laughed. That bridge is always closed. Always, Nash said. Source beamed a smile at Rose. Except today. Except today we're barreling down the street. Dude still on our tail, Nash said. And the bridge, that should be down, is opening. The gate is down. There's cars all backed up. And I tell you to punch it, Source said. Yes, you did, Nash said, shaking her head. And I'm like, are you insane? And I said, trust me. Nash and Source exchanged a weighted glance, and Nash looked back at Rose. So I did. I punched it. I thought maybe if she's wrong, I can still make this jump. And if I just get going fast enough. Source nodded to herself, but there was no need. I don't know how many spells, but one thing I know how to do is barriers, and barriers can be shaped into a ramp. Tower closed his eyes. I really wish you could run some numbers while you were making these kinds of decisions. Source chortled. And we hit the ramp, Nash clapped her hand on the table and flung it upward. And we're fucking flying. I'm screaming like a lunatic. I'm sure we're going to die, Tower said matter-of-factly. And I drop that fragging spell right before the car behind us would hit it. And they go off. Down, down, into the river below, Source said, beaming with a huge grin. And somehow we hit the other side of that bridge, Nash said. In one piece, Source said. Tell that to my spine, Tower said. But man, that was a mess, Nash said and shook her head. She took a long pull from her beer, but listen to me, go on and on. Nash set down her beer and held her palm out toward Rose. Tell us more about what you do. After an hour or two of searching and getting occasionally waylaid by guests assuming I was the help, I finally found him chatting up a circle of admirers on a top tier of the balcony, right beneath the dome. The trouble was, 2 guards blocked the way up. I wasn't sure I wanted to test my employee badge on them. Something told me neither employee status nor invitation would get me past them. If I were right, and I attracted their notice, I would have a much harder time getting out of here. If I'd had accomplices, maybe one of them could have helped me out with a distraction, or an exit, but again, just me. I was hours into this job and this soiree, and sick of pretending to be the help. I had served all the drinks from my tray long ago, and now I just carried around a bunch of empty glasses to maintain the disguise. Because if you're the help, and your hands are empty, you're wrong. Having to haul around trays of things was certainly one of the big downsides of this sort of disguise. Or so my shoulders were screaming, but it kindled an idea. I set down my tray in a less populated spot on the balcony and scanned the crowds for what I needed. First, I found the 2 dancers I'd scoped out earlier while on the hunt for my mark. With all of my magic masked, of course. I cast a pair of control emotion spells to make them more skittish. After that, I gently magicked a set of magic fingers to pull an abandoned glass off a table, safely through the balcony railing, and drop it into freefall. The tumbler tumbled, and the glass shattered among the dancers below. Several screams ran out, audible over the music, and all heads swiveled. As the screams below dissolved into self-conscious laughter, I slipped past the guards with a bit more aid from an invisibility spell. From there, it was much simpler. I talked my mark away from his admirers, having convinced all of them I was someone he knew. I helped him believe a promise I had no intention of keeping in order to get close to him, and gave him a peck on the cheek with my laced lipstick for appearance's sake. Then I just palmed what I'd come to retrieve and got the frag out. Rose finished speaking and took a pull from her drink. Tower glanced back and forth between the others and said tentatively, "So, what did you take?" Rose pursed her lips, looked over the others, and reached carefully into an inner hoodie pocket. She set a wrapped something on the table, flipped aside the napkin. Inside the napkin was a large, pasty, adult-sized thumb. Where the rest of the hand would attach, there was only a silver port. Rose watched Source, Tower, and Nash as they first stared at the thumb, then between one another. "Is it me? Or could that be our boy's thumb?" Source said. Nash's eyes lifted to meet Rose's and narrowed. "No, I don't think it's just you," Tower said. "What gives?" Nash said. Rose shrugged. "You mentioned it. It was a weird thing to get hired to grab. You remember these things." "No, I get that," Nash said and rose to her feet. "But how'd you get that? Who hired you?" she snapped. "Whoa, hey," Tower said. "Relax," Source said quietly. "I just said how," Rose said. "As for who hired me, your guess is as good as mine. Probably someone acting against your employer. We're all freelance. These things happen." Nash's jaw tightened. "Look, if you don't start giving me answers, I'm going to... No, enough of this either-or bulldrek. Calm down," Tower shouted. The women stared at him in varying degrees of shock. This is the same problem we keep facing, and if we don't stop to acknowledge it, it's going to keep getting in our way. Tower said more quietly this time. He moved to stand before Nash and reached to put his hands on her shoulders before picking up on the charge in Nash's eyes that told him to consider otherwise. "All I'm asking is that you stop and think for a second. She told us the story. Whether we believe her story..." "Sorry, Rose," he said with an apologetic look to the troll. "It's okay," Rose said. "We still know she didn't pull that run on us. We've got the guy that brought him straight to Mr. Johnson. It's not her fault that Mr. Johnson wasn't upfront with what he wanted. If he had been, we probably would have noticed the guy's thumb was already missing before we grabbed him." Tower looked from Nash to Rose again. "I'm going to guess this soiree of yours was on the 14th or earlier?" Rose nodded. "Yeah, the night of the 14th. Nash's expression softened. "And we grabbed him in the wee hours of the 15th. "Laced lipstick?" Source said with a snort. "No wonder he was so easy to get." I assumed he was blitzed." "And after everything we already told her," Tower said, "I'm willing to bet she could track down our Mr. Johnson, turn in the thumb, and keep all the pay for herself. But instead," he waved toward the napkin-wrapped digit on the table. Rose shrugged. "I can't work alone anymore. I need folks watching my back. And you seem like decent people. That, and V vouched for you all. I could probably smooth things out and turn this in for that payday you're owed. And maybe we can consider our splitting that payday to be a team-warming gift from me to you." Nash shook her head and dropped back into her seat. She stared at the thumb. "Fine. You do all that? Plus you get that damn thing off my kitchen table. And you're hired."